Welcome back to GH Updates, your go-to spot for all the drama, revelations, and explosive secrets from General Hospital. Buckle up, because the episode airing on Monday, June 2nd, 2025, is nothing short of a seismic shakeup in Port Charles. Let's break it all down. General Hospital will reveal as Lucky made the difficult decision to leave Port Charles once again. He knew that his departure would mark the end of a chapter, not only in his life, but in the lives of those who followed him, especially Aiden. This time, he wasn't leaving just an empty space behind him. He was leaving a legacy, a final, meaningful gift for his son. It wasn't a material possession that could be measured in value, but a profound offering that transcended time. Lucky knew that he would never be the father he wanted to be to Aiden, nor could he provide the stable future he had once dreamed of for his child. Yet, the legacy he left behind wasn't one-off riches or possessions, but of love, memories, and the lessons he hoped to pass down, even if he couldn't be there to teach them in person. In his final moments with Aiden, Lucky realized the truth that had been slowly weighing on him for so long, that he could never give his son the life he deserved. Not with the broken pieces of his own life scattered around him. He had spent so many years trying to find peace, but the chaos and instability that defined his existence had ultimately prevented him from building the kind of future he had hoped for his child. Despite knowing this, he wanted Aiden to know without a doubt that he loved him deeply and that his love would never fade. No matter the distance that now lay between them, Lucky may not have been able to be the father Aiden needed, but he would always be the father Aiden remembered. As Liz watched him stand there, preparing Toic out of their lives once again, a rush of emotions overwhelmed her. Her heart ached as memories of their shared past came flooding back. The years they had spent together, the love they hadn't promised each other, the dreams over life they had envisioned as a family. She remembered the days when they spoke of raising their children together, city beside, and how they had imagined growing old together. But now those dreams seemed to belong to another time, another version of their lives that will never come to pass. Li's departure was a sharp reminder that life they had hoped for was not meant to be. Liz understood Liz's decision, but that didn't make it any easier to accept. He had chosen to leave everything behind in search of peace, to stop living in a constant state of turmoil. It was a choice that pained her deeply, yet she knew that it was a decision born out of necessity. Lucky could never find solace in Port Charles, never feel like he belonged there. The weight of his past, the brokenness of his soul, was too much for him to bear in a place that was filled with reminders of everything. He COULDN single quotes 2UNDO. For Liz, however, there was no escaping the responsibilities that anchored her to Port Charles. She had her children to raise, a career she was committed to, and a life that, for better or worse, required her to remain grounded. When Lucky had proposed, she had refused. Not because she didn't love him, but because understood that their paths no longer aligned. She couldn't follow him into a future of uncertainty, not when she had so much to lose in the here and now. The future Lucky envisioned for them wasn't that Liz couldn't live, not while she was tied to the world she had built for her family. It wasn't that she didn't want to go with him, 'twas that she couldn't. The safety and stability that Port Charles provided her children were far more important than any dreams they once shared of running away together. Her decision was the hardest thing she had ever done, but it was the only thing that made sense. As Liz stood there watching Lucky prepare to leave, her heart broke, a lover again. It wasn't just the end of their relationship, but the end of a future they had once hoped for. She understood his reasons for leaving, but thought didn't stop the tears from welling up in her eyes. She felt the weight of their shared past and the emptiness of the future that stretched out before her. Aiden would never grow up with his father by his side, and that was a Paige would have to carry alone. Lies legacy, while filled with love, was also filled with loss, a reminder of all things that could have been but never were. And as Lucky turned away for what could be the last time, Liz felt a sharp pang in her chest, knowing Thaddeus was the final goodbye. She wouldn't see him again, not in the same way, not with the same hopes and dreams they shared. Yet, as he walked away, Liz also knew that she would always carry a piece of him in her heart, a part of him that would forever be intertwined with the love she had for their children. The legacy Lucky left behind was more than just a collection of memories. It was a bittersweet reminder of love lost, of dreams deferred, and of the sacrifices that were made along the way. It was a legacy of love, but also of the painful reality that sometimes love ain't enough to keep to a prodiger, no matter how hard they try. When Lucky handed over his final legacy to Liz, it was a moment of painful clarity for her. Everything they had shared, the love, the heartache, the dreams they once held, flooded her mind in that instant. The weight of their past together pressed on her chest. Ange found herself unable to stop thinking about it all. The years they had spent together were a mixture of joy and sorrow, triumphs and disappointments. There had been moments of true happiness, but also times when they both had to face their darkest fears. In those moments, they had dreamed of a future together, a future that now felt like a distant fantasy. As she stood there, looking at the legacy he had left her, Liz couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of loss. She loved him deeply and undeniably. Butch also knew that his departure was necessary. Lucky had never been able to find peace within himself. The internal battles he had fought for years had taken a toll on him. And as much as Liz wished she could have been the one to help him heal, Sheck knew that his journey was one he had to take alone. His need for freedom, for peace, had ultimately led him to this decision. But the knowledge that he needed to leave didn't make it any easier for Liz. Saying goodbye to him felt like she was losing a part of herself, a part of her thought she had loved and cherished for so long. The idea of moving on without him was incomprehensible. Yet, it was a reality she had to face. Liz felt Licathere was a hole in her heart, one that could never be filled. It wasn't just the end of their relationship, it was the end of a shared vision for their future. A future that would never come to pass, as much as she tried to stay strong. Tobe, the pillar of strength she knew it needed, Liz couldn't stop the flood of emotions that overwhelmed her. It was like a part of her had been ripped away, leaving her raw and exposed, despite her best efforts to carry on. Toked as though everything would be okay. She knew that her heart was broken in ways that time couldn't heal. When Lucky looked at Liz one last time, his gazelle was filled with something deeper than just goodbye. There was a promise in his eyes, a commitment to love her forever, despite distance that now separated them. His decision to leave wasn't because he had stopped loving her. It was because he knew that to truly find peace, he had to walk away. The depth of his love for her, for Aiden, was something that would remain with him, even if he was no longer physically present. In that brief, lingering moment, Liz felt every ounce of emotion she had tried to suppress. The tears that had been threatening to fall now cascaded down her cheeks. Ange couldn't stop them. Her heart ached, but she understood. She understood that Li's love for her willed never fade, no matter how far he went. She understood that his need to heal was something beyond her control, beyond anything they could have changed. And even though it felt like her world was falling apart, Liz knew that she had to be strong for Aiden. For the future they still had to build. She had to be the mother that her son needed. The mother who could weather the storms of life, no matter how harsh they might be. Liz couldn't change the past, nor could she stop Lucky from leaving. but she could choose how to move forward. She had to stay strong for her child, even if her heart felt like it was breaking in two. Lai's final words to Liz resonated in her soul. "I will always love you, Liz. I will always love Urson." In those words, she found both comfort and sorrow. Comfort in the fact that his love for her would endure even in the absence of his presence. But also sorrow because she knew that love alone wasn't enough to make everything right. Love was enough to heal the wounds that both of them had suffered over the years. It wasn't enough to mend the broken that had torn them apart. As Lucky walked away, Liz stood there, her heart heave, watching him disappear into the distance. The love they had shared would always be part of her. But she knew that she couldn't live in the past forever. She had to find a way to move forward, to build a life for herself and Aiden. It wouldn't be easy, and there would be days when she would miss him terribly. But Liz knew that she couldn't allow her grief to define her. She had to be the author her son deserved, the woman who could carry on in the face of heart-ashamed loss. And as Lucky's silhouette faded from her sight, Liz whispered a promise to herself. She would honor the love they had shared, but she would also find a way to live for herself and her son. She would be strong for Aiden and for the future they still had ahead of them, even if it meant letting go of the past it had once felt so certain. It wastes time to say goodbye, not just to Lucky, but to the life they had imagined together. It was time to step forward into a future where love, though painful, would continue to guide her every step. As Lucky turned his back and began to walk away, Liz couldn't stop the deep kinsrow that took root in her heart. She knew in that moment that this was the final goodbye. There would be no more reckonances to make things right, no more opportunities to change the path they had each chosen. His decision was final, irrevocable, and as the distance between them grew, Liz felt a part of her being torn away. Her heart touched, not just for the loss of the man she had loved, but for the man he'd had been to her and their son. As Lucky walked away, it was as though he was taking a piece of her with him, leaving her with an emptiness that was too vast to comprehend. But, despite the pain, Liz knew deep down thought this was the only way for him to find the peace he had long been searching for. In his absence, though he would never truly be gone, a part of Lucky would always remain with her, etched into the very fabric of her life, and especially on the life of their son. Aiden, the legacy Lucky left behind was not one of material wealth or possessions. It was one of memories and lessons that Aiden would carry with him throughout his life, lessons of love, resilience, and the complexity of life's journey. Though Lucky wouldn't be there to guide Aiden in person, his influence would remain in the stories Liz would tell him, the wisdom she would share, and the values she would instill in him. Lucky might not have been able to be the father he wanted to be, but the love he had for his son would never fade. Aiden would carry that love within him, and in doing so, Lucky would always be present. A father in his heart, even if not in his daily life. In the days that followed, Liz felt Life's absence more profoundly than she had ever imagined. Every corner of Port Charles seemed tocho with the memories of him, the places they had shared, the spots where Eddie had laughed and dreamed together, now felt hollow and empty. Every street, every quiet corner held ghosts of their past. A past that could never be reclaimed. Liz would catch herself walking past the old diner where they used to meet, or Thepperk where they once shared quiet minutes, and it would hit her all over again that Lucky was gone. The absence of his presence in these familiar places was like a sharp, unrelenting pain, a constant reminder of the life they would never have. Despite the overwhelmingness, Liz understood that Shackleton remained lost in the past forever. For Aiden, for herself, and for the future they both had ahead of them, she had to keep moving forward. The griefs felt was not something she could just push aside, but it was something she would have to learn to live with. Her heart ached for what they had lost, but she knew she couldn't allow that take to define her. She had to be strong for Aiden. She had to show him what resilience meant, what it meant to keep moving forward. Even in the face of heartache and loss, the dreams she and Lucky had shared for their future together now seemed like distant memories far out of reach. But Liz would carry them with her, quietly, holding on to the moments they had shared. She had promised herself that she would honor those dreams, not by clinging to the past, but by allowing those dreams to shape her future in a new way. She would live for herself, for Aiden, and for the promise of a better tomorrow. Even if that tomorrow looked nothing like the one they had imagined together. Through all the tears and sorrow, Liz held fast to the one thing that remained: love. Love for Lucky, love for Aiden, and the love she would always carry within her. And in that love, there was healing. Slowly but surely, Liz began to rebuild her life. She knew it wouldn't be easy, and there will be days when the weight of life's absence would feel unbearable. But each day she would grow stronger. Each day she would take another step forward for herself. And for her son, a journey ahead would be filled with challenges. But Liz had always been a fighter. She had always known that even in the darkest of times, there was a way to find light. As she stood on the edge of her new life, Liz could feel a sense of quieter self settling within her. The pain of losing Lucky would never truly go away, but she could learn to live with it, to carry it in a way that allowed her to keep moving forward. She would always love him, but she knew that her life, her and Aiden's life, had to continue. Li's memory, his love, would always be a part of them, woven into the very fabric of their existence. And in that way, he would never truly be gone. He would remain in their hearts forever. The news that Jonathan Jackson will be leaving General Hospital GH once again has come as a huge shock to fans. After his return in August 2024, fans had hoped that this time he would stay with the show for a long period. But unfortunately, his departure has come much sooner than expected. With the news of Jackson's exit spreading, the question remains whether the character of Lucky Spencer will be recast. Jonathan Jackson returned to General Hospital in August 2024, after a long absence since his last full-time appearance in 2015. Fans were excited about his return as Lucky Spencer, hoping this would be a comeback, but in reality, it did not turn out as hoped. Jackson lives in Nashville, Tennessee, while the show is filmed in Los Angeles, and the constant traveling between the two places became a challenge for him. Despite his love for the role and the Sue, Jackson admitted that the travel logistics made it impossible for him to stay for an extended period. As a father of 3 children, Jackson understood it. His family had to come first. He expressed deep gratitude for the support from the fans when he returned to the show. But he also acknowledged that being away from his family had significantly impacted his decision. He shared, "I am very grateful for the enthusiasm of the fans regarding my return to the show. I apologize for not being able to stay longer. I hope you understand that this is the choice I had to make for my family life." With Jackson's departure, the question about whether the character of Lucky Spencer will be recast has arisen. Jackson believes that the possibility of recasting his role in the future is very low. But he also expressed respect for the show's decisions. "I really don't see that happening. I could be wrong, but personally, I think that would be a shame," he said. However, Jackson remains open to returning if the opportunity arises. But emphasized that the final decision is up to the producers. General Hospital executive producer Frank Valentini has expressed that the door will always be open if Jonathan Jackson wishes to return in the future. "The door is always open from my perspective. So, we'll have to see how things shake out and whether there's a way to adjust some of the realities, so Jackson can return," Valentini shared. This statement raises hope for fans that Samita Jackson could return to the role-off Lucky Spencer, though it is not certain at this point. With Jackson's comments and the producer's reception, fans are facing the possibility that Lucky Spencer may no longer be portrayed, be Jonathan Jackson, and may be recast with another actor. Whether this happens or not, fans will always remember Jackson as an inseparable part of General Hospital's story. What a whirlwind of emotion, betrayal, and bombshell revelations. Monday's episode promises to change the lives of Port Charles residents forever. Will Michael recover from Sasha's revelation? Will Nina's secrets destroy her credibility? And is this really the end for Curtis and Portia? One thing's for sure, General Hospital is just getting started. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to GH Updates for your daily dose of drama. We'll be right here, bringing you every twist, every turn, and every unforgettable moment. Until next time, stay tuned, Port Charles fans.